Getting off the 19 bus after another round trip to Bayview for Mr. Shin, Henry decided to hike all the way up to the top of Mason Street, past the entrance to the hotel. The last 3 weeks had passed seamlessly, with one day of cleaning blurred into the next. Only the occasional errand like this released Henry from the dreary confines of the Shang Inn. This was his own doing, of course. When Henry asked his boss for no days off, hoping it would expedite his savings collection, Mr. Shin had been happy to oblige. But it had been exhausting, and aside from the little contact he made with his skateboard on the flat land in between bus stop and final destination, he hadn't done any skateboarding. As he made it to the top of the hill, he crossed the street and headed to a handrail he'd once tried to skate. He'd been avoiding confronting the spot since it had, in some ways, involved one of the worst days of his life. It had happened over 2 years ago, when Henry had been rolling around with a big crew of skaters, each of them filming for various video projects. Someone had wanted to skate the outledge on California Street in front of the Masonic, but they'd been quickly kicked out by the security guards. The group continued making their way down the wide street that would lead them to downtown, but they stopped to examine the large handrail in front of the Mark Hopkins Hotel. It was the kind of stairwell needed for some of San Francisco's hills, Mason being one of the steepest. Not many tricks had been accomplished on the handrail, and as skaters are wont to do, they all gathered round, repeating tales of victory from years past. "I heard after Frank did the frontside board slide, he took it all the way down to Market," Stevie, a long-haired Latino skater who was visiting from LA, said. "What the fuck are you talking about?" Joey, the white middle-aged filmer, responded. "He didn't take the whole hill. He ran out before the first intersection. I heard he bruised both his heels and couldn't walk for weeks." "What about Ryan? He took it all the way, after the nollie, didn't he?" "Fuck no," Joey said. "This hill is too gnarly. No one's gonna bomb this from the top. This is one of the only hill spots where it's okay to land and just run out. In my opinion, at least." Hearing that, Henry felt something move inside of him. He hadn't been motivated to try anything all day, but looking at the rail now, he was overwhelmed with an urge to fakey ollie it. It had been months since he'd filmed anything worthy, and he knew hopping over this handrail wouldn't be too hard. And besides, if he didn't have to worry about taking the whole hill, it wouldn't be a problem. All he had to do was pop over it, roll for a few seconds, and run out. "I'm down to skate it," he heard himself say. Instantly the crew gave him his distance. Joey started setting up his video camera, and the photographer, a chubby guy who everyone called Tubbsy, joined Joey's prep, whipping out flashes and tripods like an eager roadie on tour for the first time. Fuck, Henry thought, nervous about getting into a battle that would keep everyone waiting. He knew the crew was excited to start skating down California Street, a nice hill bomb to end the day. Now they would have to wait. "We're good," Tubbsy yelled out once all his flashes were set up and he and Joey were in position. "You got this, Henry." Hearing the encouragement from Tubbsy made him imagine getting a photo in Underwood. Trick-wise, a fakey ollie over this rail would be good enough to get him in the magazine, and Tubbsy always took great photographs. He hadn't had a photo published in ages, and it would make the day he'd taken off from work worth it. The most important thing about trying any trick was knowing how to bail. For the fakey ollie, as long as Henry could safely detach himself from his board, jump over the handrail, and run out along the sidewalk, he'd be fine. In most cases, bailing didn't even involve falling. It just meant not trying in the safest possible manner. So for 15 minutes, Henry bailed his trick, rolling up slowly to the handrail and leaping off his skateboard and over the bar. Bailing like this was as natural to him as stepping up a curb. It was instinctual and posed no real threat because he calculated his leaps so that he always had enough clearance over the railing. But just like someone occasionally trips and stumbles stepping up a curb, Henry was prone to a bail stumble as well. Only unlike a curb, the rail Henry hit with his foot hooked him like a tripwire, sending him flying face first to the serrated sidewalk, a good 6-foot drop straight to his shoulder. The first jolt of pain came not from his collarbone, which had snapped, or his head, which had scraped the ground, but from his rib cage. While his shoulder took the impact, his elbow had dug into his ribs like a corkscrew. As he lay on the ground, rolling onto his back and frantically moaning as he struggled to find air, he felt like someone was standing on his rib cage. The session was over, and he wouldn't be skating for a long, long time. But what started as one of the worst days of his life soon turned into one of his loveliest months with Ellen. After he was released from the hospital, with a sling for his collarbone and an immobility recommendation for his cracked ribs, he stayed in bed for 2 weeks straight, enjoying painkillers, books, and TV shows. Ellen had been unbelievably sweet and tender, nursing him back to health with the care that proved what a deep, committed love they shared. She brought him all his meals, sometimes even sneaking in on her lunch break to bring him burritos or burgers from his favorite spots in the Mission. At night, she'd tease him into laughter, which was mean because of how painful it was to make any kind of movement with his chest. That month made him thankful he'd never been particularly allergic to anything, as sneezing was as painful as getting punched. Even coughs were brutal. It was during this time that he caught a glimpse of what a kind and loving mother Ellen would be someday. There were also sexual moments from that bedridden month, when Henry could only lay on his back and let Ellen get creative with massage oils and costumes, that Henry always turned to in times of lonely fantasizing and longing. Mr. Shin greeted Henry at the door, nodding at him with a facial expression that was almost a smile. Once again, the asinine task of delivering an envelope proved satisfactory. He was still on the clock, but there were only a few rooms he needed to clean, which was a relief. In his room after his shift, Henry tidied his things. It was a tiny room, just big enough to fit his twin bed and a small bureau. He filled the bottom 2 drawers with snacks and non-refrigerated meals, including pretty much every cup noodles flavor that the brand offered. He stacked the few shirts he wore on top of the bureau, along with a framed photograph of Ellen. It was a photo he'd taken of her sitting up wrapped in a blanket on a cold beach day in Bolinas, a small hippie town up the coast from San Francisco that was special to her. Even though the fog never dissipated enough to warrant stripping down to their bathing suits, he had nothing but fond memories from that lovely gray afternoon.